Please, we can get along here. We all can get along. I mean, we're all stuck here for a while. Let's try to work it out.
Rodney King. That plea. It sounds so simple, doesn't it?
It really does. And yet here we are constantly grappling with this question. Why is it so hard for good people, people who often mean well, to actually get along? Especially, when it comes to things like politics or religion, things we hold so deeply.
It's a fundamental human challenge, isn't it? We are kind of stuck here together, as he said.
Yeah.
And understanding what's going on under the surface, the psychology that divides us into these, well, sometimes hostile groups, each absolutely sure they're right, that's really crucial if we want to work things out.
Exactly. And that's really our goal today. We're going to explore the moral psychology that drives these divisions. Not to pick sides, absolutely not, but to maybe reduce some of the anger, replace it with a bit more curiosity, maybe even wonder about how our minds actually work.
And we're drawing heavily on the insights from a truly fascinating book for this exploration.
Right. And speaking of exploring complex ideas, just a quick mention for those of you looking to dive deeper into reflection and rational thought using AI for book analysis. Our Mindful Moments over on our YouTube channel does just that. It's actually a great companion to what we're discussing today.
A very good point. So to understand that challenge Rodney King highlighted, we first need to look at how our minds are structured. The book uses this brilliant metaphor, the mind as a small rider on a huge elephant.
The rider being our conscious reasoning and the elephant. That's our intuition, our gut feelings.
Precisely. And the key thing is the power dynamic. The elephant, our intuition, is, well, it's mostly running the show. The rider, our reasoning, thinks it's in control, but mostly. It serves the elephant.
Serves it. How so?
It acts like a press secretary or a PR firm for the elephant. It's incredibly skilled at coming up with justifications after the elephant has already decided which way to lean or what to do. Our gut feeling often comes first.
So the reasoning part is more about explaining than deciding.
Often, yes. It's post hoc rationalization. We feel something first, then our brain quickly constructs the reasons why that feeling is justified.
Okay, so how does this actually manifest? Can you give an example of this elephant and rider dynamic in action?
Sure. Think about studies on something called moral dumbfounding. This is where people have these immediate strong gut reactions, moral judgments, but then they really struggle to explain why they feel that way.
Dumbfounding. Like they're struck dumb.
Exactly. Researchers might present scenarios designed to trigger disgust but be technically harmless, like a story about adult siblings who decide to have consensual protected sex once, feel closer but cause no harm, or asking someone to take a sip of juice after a sterilized cockroach was dipped in it.
Okay, yeah, I can feel the yuck factor just hearing those.
Great. People instantly say that's wrong or no way. But when you press them for why it's wrong, especially when you counter their reasons, like pointing out there was no harm in the incest example or the roach was sterile,
they can't justify it logically.
They often hit a wall. They'll say things like, I don't know, I can't explain it, it's just wrong. One participant in a study literally said, there's just no way I could change my mind, but I just don't know how to show what I'm feeling. It perfectly shows reason as the servant. The elephant feels disgust, makes a judgment, and the rider tries, sometimes fails, to build a logical case for it.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty compelling. And it's not just complex moral stuff, right? The book mentions even like physical sensations can nudge our judgments. It's something about fart spray.
Yeah, believe it or not. In one experiment, they subtly released a foul smell, yes, using a fart spray near some participants while they were filling out questionnaires about moral issues.
You kidding? What happened?
Those who smelled the bad odor actually made harsher moral judgments on unrelated topics compared to people in clean air. It shows how our feelings, our effect, even from something as basic as a bad smell, can bleed into our judgments. Our brain uses this ambient feeling as information. Feels bad in here. Maybe these things I'm judging are bad too.
That's wild. So a bad smell makes us more judgmental.
Subtly, yes. Or even something like washing your hands that can make people slightly more judgmental about issues related to purity or disgust, like certain sexual behaviors or drug use. It primes the concept of cleanliness.
So our moral compass isn't just this purely rational thing. It's deeply tied to our bodies, our feelings, our elephant.
Very much so. It's mostly a fast, automatic, intuitive process. And there's neurological evidence, too. Think about psychopaths. They can often reason quite well, logically, but they lack those core moral emotions like empathy or guilt. And that lack of feeling leads to profound moral deficits.
Right. They know the rules, but they don't feel the rules.
Exactly. And conversely, look at babies. Long before they can reason complexly, they show signs of a rudimentary moral sense. They react with surprise or distress when they see actions that violate basic fairness or care principles. It suggests the foundations of morality are built on feeling, on intuition. The elephant is there from the start.
So, if our reasoning is often just justifying the elephant's decisions, the book suggests we don't really have an inner judge seeking truth, but more of an inner lawyer.
That's the idea. Our reasoning didn't primarily evolve for solitary truth-seeking. It evolved in a social context, likely to help us argue, persuade, and justify ourselves to others to protect our reputation. The inner lawyer is always trying to build the best case for our side, or our group's side, rather than objectively weighing all the evidence like a scientist might.
Which makes sense, evolutionarily speaking. Being able to win arguments and maintain social standing would have been pretty important.
Hugely important. So if we're trying to understand disagreements, especially those heated ones, it means our brains are naturally geared towards confirming our existing beliefs and finding fault with opposing views. We're built for motivated reasoning.
Okay, so what's the practical takeaway here? If you want to actually change someone's mind or even just have a productive conversation across a divide, what do?
Well, the direct implication is you have to talk to the elephant. Just arguing with the writer, throwing Saxon logic, often doesn't work if the elephant isn't receptive.
Because the writer's job is to defend the elephant, not necessarily to listen to you.
Right. The book actually references Dale Carnegie, how to win friends and influence people. His advice, things like avoiding direct attacks, starting in a friendly way, smiling, listening well, showing respect before you make your case.
That's all about appealing to the elephant first, making it feel safe and understood.
Precisely. You need to soothe the elephant, make it feel less threatened, more open, before the writer might even consider alternative arguments. It's about emotional connection and respect preceding logical debate. That's crucial for bridging these divides.
Okay, so understanding that our minds are run by this intuitive elephant is step one. But what are these intuitions? What is the elephant actually reacting to? The book argues that we've often had a pretty narrow view of morality, haven't we?
We have, especially in what the book terms weird societies, Western, educated, industrialized, rich, democratic. In these cultures, morality often seems to really boil down to two main concerns: preventing harm and ensuring fairness.
Care and fairness. That sounds about right for a lot of modern ethical debates.
It does. But the book makes a powerful case that this is only part of the picture. Human morality is much broader, more diverse. It argues that descriptive moral pluralism is true. Morality isn't the same everywhere, and it's built on more foundations than just those two.
Like taste receptors. I think that was the analogy used.
Exactly like taste receptors. Just as our tongues have receptors for sweet, sour, salty, bitter, umami, which different cultures then use to create vastly different cuisines, our minds have several innate moral foundations. These are intuitive triggers, sensitivities we've evolved.
Okay, so what are these moral taste buds? There are 6, right?
Yes, 6 main ones identified in the book. The first one is care harm. This is our sensitivity to suffering, vulnerability, and need. It's ancient, evolved for parental care, and it makes us feel compassion and want to protect others, especially the weak or young.
That one feels pretty universal. What's next?
Fairness cheating. This isn't just about equality, but more about proportionality, reciprocity, karma, getting what you deserve, punishing cheaters, making sure things are balanced. It's the intuition behind justice.
Okay, care and fairness. Those are the two often emphasized in weird cultures. What are the others?
Then we get into foundations that the book suggests are often less prioritized by, say, political liberals, but are very important in many other cultures and for political conservatives. First is loyalty betrayal. This is about forming cohesive groups, valuing your in-group, patriotism, self-sacrifice for the team, and vigilance against traitors.
Being part of a tribe, essentially.
Yes. Then there's authority subversion. This is about respecting legitimate traditions and authority figures, maintaining order, fulfilling the duties of one's role within a hierarchy. It's not just blind obedience, but a sense that order and respect for roles are necessary for society to function.
Yeah, interesting. That one definitely feels like a source of political friction sometimes.
It certainly can be. The fifth foundation is sanctity degradation. This is rooted in our sense of disgust and contamination. It's about valuing purity, holiness, avoiding pollutants or degrading acts. It makes certain things feel sacred, untouchable, noble, and others feel profane or disgusting. Think religious rules, but also secular feelings about respecting the flag or nature.
Right, that feeling of things being sacred or taboo. And the last one.
Liberty oppression. This is that feeling of righteous anger and resistance you get when you perceive domination, coercion, or bullying by those in power. It's the don't tread on me instinct, motivating people to unite and fight back against illegitimate control.
Wow. Okay. Care, fairness, loyalty, authority, sanctity, liberty. That's a much richer palette than just harm and fairness.
It really is. And understanding this helps make sense of why people disagree so vehemently. The book suggests, for instance, that political liberals tend to build their moral world primarily on care and fairness, often emphasizing equality within fairness, while conservatives tend to rely more equally on all six foundations.
So conservatives might react strongly to perceived threats to loyalty, authority, or sanctity, while liberals might prioritize issues of harm or inequality above those.
Generally speaking, that's one of the key patterns the book observes. It's not that one side is moral and the other isn't, but that they're responding to different sets of moral triggers or weighting them differently. This broader moral palette gives conservatives, according to the book, different insights into social cohesion and order.
That framework alone is incredibly helpful for understanding political divides without just resorting to thinking the other side is crazy or evil.
It really is. It reframes disagreement as stemming from different but deeply felt moral intuitions.
So we have the intuitive elephant, and we have these 6 foundations it responds to. But there's another piece, right? Why do we form such tight groups around these moral visions? The book talks about a hive switch.
Yes. This is another fascinating idea. The book proposes we're, quote, 90% chimp and 10% bee.
90% chimp, meaning mostly self-interested, concerned with our own status and survival.
Exactly, like our primate cousins. But the 10% bee part is crucial. Under certain conditions, we can temporarily flip a hive switch in our minds. We can transcend that self-interest, lose ourselves in something larger, and feel like static connection as part of a group. We become, for a moment, like bees in a hive.
Conditional hive creatures. How does that switch get flipped? What makes us feel like part of a collective us?
The book highlights several triggers. One powerful one is synchrony moving together in time. Think soldiers marching, people dancing at a concert or rave, congregations singing hymns.
Muscular bonding, is that the term?
That's it, muscular bonding. Doing things in unison seems to dissolve the sense of individual self and create this feeling of collective effervescence, a shared high. It literally binds people together physically and emotionally.
I can definitely picture that. Like the feeling in a crowd at a sports game, everyone chanting together.
Precisely. Another trigger can be shared threat, uniting a group against a common enemy. And the book even mentions what it calls Durkheimian drugs, referencing sociologist Emil Durkheim. Certain substances used in specific group or ritual contexts that can lower ego boundaries and enhance feelings of connection and transcendence.
So these are mechanisms that make us feel less like me and more like we.
Yes, they temporarily turn down the volume on the chimp and turn up the volume on the bee.
And religion seems to be a master key for flipping this switch, according to the book.
Absolutely. The argument is that religious practices, the rituals, the synchrony in worship, the shared sacred stories and symbols are incredibly powerful tools for activating the hive switch and binding groups together. This has been happening for tens of thousands of years.
It's less about the specific belief sometimes and more about the shared doing.
Often, yes. The shared experience creates the community. The book cites research showing that religious belonging often correlates with more generosity and cooperation within the religious group. There's a study on 19th century communes.
Oh, yeah, the one comparing religious and secular communes.
That's the one. Religious communes lasted significantly longer, on average. Why? The book suggests it's because their shared beliefs were made sacred through costly rituals and sacrifices. This sacralization built trust and commitment, allowing them to overcome the free rider problems that often plague secular communes.
So religion, through these group-binding rituals, helps foster what the book calls parochial love, intense loyalty and cooperation within the group.
Exactly. It creates a strong us. This ability to cohere into groups is a huge part of human success. Of course, the flip side is that this minding can sometimes lead to blinding, an inability to see flaws in one's own group or empathize with outsiders. It's a powerful double-edged sword.
Okay, putting this all together, we have an intuitive mind, the elephant, guided by these 6 moral foundations. And we have this innate capacity to flip a hive switch and become intensely groupish. Understanding all this, how does it help us actually disagree better? How do we move towards Rodney King's plea?
Well, I think the first step is simply acknowledging this reality in ourselves and others. Realizing that moral disagreements often aren't just about facts or logic, but about deep-seated intuitions rooted in these different foundations. It allows for a bit more humility, maybe.
Recognizing that someone who disagrees with you isn't necessarily irrational or immoral, but might just be operating with a different moral matrix, weighting those foundations differently.
Precisely. And the book suggests that both liberal and conservative moralities bring important perspectives. Liberals, often emphasizing care and fairness, are crucial for identifying victims, challenging oppression, and pushing for necessary social reform. They're often the drivers of change.
While conservatives, drawing more broadly on all 6 foundations, including loyalty, authority, and sanctity, bring an understanding of what the book calls moral capital.
Right, the shared norms, trust, institutions, and traditions that hold a society together and allow cooperation. Conservatives often act as guardians of this social fabric, warning against changes that might unravel it.
So they're like yin and yang. Both perspectives are needed for a healthy society.
That's the argument. Society needs the push for change and the pull of stability. It needs the focus on individual rights and the focus on group cohesion. Understanding the psychological roots of both perspectives can help us appreciate the value in each, even when we disagree.
And as we wrestle with these big ideas about morality and disagreement, just a reminder that our Mindful Moments content, and indeed all our podcasts, aim to provide these kinds of insights, helping you navigate complex topics.
Absolutely. If this discussion sparked something for you, please do subscribe to our channel, maybe share it with someone else who's curious about these things. And if you want to go straight to the source, there's a link to purchase the book in the description.
And above all, keep thinking. Keep questioning your own intuitions, your own elephant and rider. Keep trying to understand the foundations others might be building on. Because maybe, just maybe, the real path to getting along isn't always about agreeing on what we believe,
but maybe finding some common ground and understanding how and why we all come to believe what we do.